Hi viewers, this is Salahuddin with lecture number 27. In the previous lecture, we talked about the American War of Independence and its causes. Uh, it is also called the American Revolution. And if you check out the previous 20 and 21 CSS papers, US history, you will find out this question there, and they call it the American War of Revolution or something like that. Uh, so they changed the name of this war, and the cause or the reason behind changing the are giving a complex statement in order to create confusion in the minds of the aspirants. So it is also called American War of Revolution and American War of Independence. And this question is really important from the examination point of view, both in the British history as well as in the US history. This question is posted many times in the past papers. So I am trying my level best to deliver lecture on this topic in a way which can help you in both British history as well as in US history. In the previous lecture, we talked about the causes of the War of American Independence, and then we skipped the important events that took place in the meantime while fighting War of American Independence. Uh, those events, those were not of that significance and importance from examination point of view. So we did not go in detail on those important those events. So we skipped those events and talked about the reasons, the causes of the American War of Independence, which we had a detailed discussion on that. In the later part, today we will talk about this one, the Treaty of Versailles, and after this, we are in a sequence to cover all the important events of history in a sequence, in an order, to uh, the aspirants may not face any problem. So we are going in sequence, and after the causes, today we will talk about this treaty. While in some books or on some sites, you will find out the things or the events which are mixed in a very different way, and it creates a lot of confusion by the aspirants or those who are interested in British history. So we are going in a sequence, in order, so that all the events may be covered in a single line, and the parents may easily capable to jot down those important events, dates, and whatever we are talking about from the history point of view. Uh, so coming to the topic, and the topic is Treaty of Versailles. This treaty took place after the War of Independence in 1783, uh, where this treaty took place, and why it is called Treaty of Versailles, and who were the participants in this Treaty of Versailles. Basically, Versailles is a place in France, so it is that's why it's called Versailles. And the treaty took place in 1783, while winding up the American War of Independence from the British side, and declaring those 13 colonies as the future United States of America. Uh, this treaty officially marked the end of American War of Independence. So, who were the participants? They took part. They took part in the this treaty. On September 3, 1783, England entered into a treaty with France, Spain, and the USA, the future USA. These three, in some books, if you see, they have also included Netherlands, which is called also Holland. So these three important countries, France, Spain, and USA, they concluded a treaty, and the treaty is known as Treaty of Versailles, where the British, the English on one hand, while the France, Spain, and the United States of America on the other hand. Why the Spain was included, why the French was included. As we talked in the previous lecture, that at that time there were multipolarity in Europe. Austria on the one hand was a great power, France was on another hand, Spain was on the other hand, and England on the other hand. So they would have a kind of cold war, they would fight proxies war. In modern time we call it proxy wars. So all these great powers of Europe, they were fighting wars against each other, either through proxies, or they were fighting cold wars against each other. In order to dominate the Europe and to dominate the colonies, where the Africa was the only resort where these great powers, they would establish colonies. West Indies was another resort where they would try their best to establish colonies, and the subcontinent was another resort. And we talked in detail that the prime purpose behind establishing or developing colonies in the other parts of the world was the only reason that they could import the raw materials from there. They could sell out their finished products there and to make money. And there were also some other commercial purposes behind behind establishing those colonies. We are not going in that detail, but just to let you about the fact that the prime purpose of establishing colony was commercial purposes, through which they could earn money, and political purposes. And later on, it is also changed into ideological purposes as well, to disseminate and to impose their own ideology. So later on in the modern time, ideology become prominent and get hold a prominent place in the establishing colonies. So these three countries entered into a treaty with England in 1783. So what were the important features of the treaty? We will talk about the important features. If you want to write down the significant feature, let me tell you the points one by one. Then later on we will come to explain it and talk about it. The first point, the first feature, the clause of this treaty was a recognition of the freedom of the American colonies. First one. Second, in America, only Newfoundland and Nova Scotia remain under the British control. The third important clause of this treaty was Spain got Menorca and Florida. The fourth important clause of this treaty was the French got back their settlements in India and some in West Indies, and Africa they got Senegal province as their share of victory. So these were the important clauses, features of the Treaty of Versailles. Let's come to one by one. A recognition of the freedom of the American colonies. The English, they fought brilliantly against those colonies. We talked in detail the causes, and in the coming part we will talk about the causes of the failures of the British. So after tremendous struggle by the 13 colonies of America, they got freedom and the English were whiffed out from the United States of America of today's time and North America of that time. So those 13 colonies collectively named as the United States of America. The second important point, in America, only Newfoundland and Nova Scotia remain under the British control. So these two important, which are states now, Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, those were left under the supervision or under the control of the British in this treaty. So they still had a kind of hold over there, and these two important regions are two states of nowadays. The third feature of the treaty was Spain got Menorca and Florida. So these are also states nowadays, and Spain also got some important points, some important regions, which are Menorca and Florida. These, as we talked in the start of the lecture, these were great powers. Thus, they distributed the important choke points of the United States of America among themselves. The fourth important feature of this treaty was the French got back their settlements in India and some in West Indies and Africa. They got Senegal provinces their share of victory. When the Americans were defeated, and we talked in detail, so the French, they were highly interested to see the defeat of the British, because they were kicked out from the Canada there as a result of the 7 Years' War, because the Canada was humiliated badly as a result of that 7 Years' War, and they also had some wars in other parts of the world, in other colonies like Africa, where they would fight against the Boers, supporting the Boers against the other power, and also in the subcontinent, where the East India Company had already established her settlements here in 1601, and later and previously the subcontinent was occupied by France, and before France they were occupied by the Dutch, which is nowadays known as Netherlands or Holland. So when the American War of Independence was breathing their last, concluded as a result of this treaty, France were given some settlements in India as a compensation to the French government at that time, and also given some settlements, some portions of the colonies where they could establish commercial activities, in West Indies as well. In Africa, Senegal was a province, and now it's a country, Senegal. The currency is Dakar. It is located in the northern and in Western Africa. So this province at that time was given as a victory to the French forces, because the English were humiliated in the North America. So to compensate the French, they were given this province in the African continent. So this is all about the Treaty of Versailles, and in the coming lecture we will talk about the other aspect of the American War of Independence, and that is, of course, causes and impacts of the American War of Independence. So thank you so much for watching the video, and if there is any question regarding this topic, you can ask in the comment section, and I'm reading your comments and definitely will respond to your comments. So thank you so much.